working out this new song in the key of E, a spiritual song, and it's one of the go-to ones for the thumb pick players, and I thought I'd make some important points. So the thing about, and at the end, excuse me, at the end I'm going to show you an example of what it sounds like. So one of the most important things with the thumb pick is how you're playing on the lower strings of your guitar, and that is the primary thing as opposed to the melody playing. So keeping this thumb active, keeping it in accordance with the music, and occasionally, once you get more advanced, adding in syncopation, that's the top priority, not what the melody playing is doing with the thumb pick. Now, when you don't have a thumb pick on, as I often play, you can get a nice sound. You can get the sound of your bare skin on the strings, but it's not a very articulate sound. It's not a very sharp sound. So this is what the thumb pick does. The thumb pick also creates a distance between the way your hand sits on the bridge and up against towards the strings, because I just took it off again to show you that if I was playing my normal way, you can maybe see the difference. It's just kind of pivoting here, whereas when I add in, put this back on, now all of a sudden there's this distance between my thumb and the strings. And this is what the thumb pick allows you to do. I can't think of any other way you can approach finger picking playing with the same posture without using a thumb pick. The thumb pick provides that. And when I think about this style of playing in general, I think of about 3 different branches of this kind of playing. And one of the most recent would have to be, honestly, Chet Atkins, who had the very tight muting, super tight muting, and focused on one string at a time, because that's not always the case. He might go, for example, I'm not going to do the muting right now, 6, 4, alternating like that. But there's so many combinations out there. You might hear guitar players that, let me just take my left hand off, that might focus on, say, for example, 2 strings at a time. You might hear that frequently by studying records, as I've done. You might hear more of a strumming style with the thumb pick, where it's almost what a rhythm guitar would do, and then there's a melody playing on top of it. Point being is that what the thumb does, the rhythm that the thumb keeps, is foundational. That's the main priority when you're starting out, and I recommend when you start out, even just learn that part first, on the bass strings of the guitar I'm talking about. As I said, when you take off the thumb pick and you play a note this way, like say I normally would, even on a large guitar like this, it's sort of a dull sound, isn't it? Even if you took off the muting, just to hear it for what it is. You can get a strong sound, especially on those coated strings, elixir strings, and you flick the strings a certain way. You can add your own personality to it. But there's no sharpness to it. So that's what the thumb pick does. It adds a clarity to it. Now you might find you want to anchor fingers here by the pick guard, but what I'm finding is most comfortable is slightly tucking in the fingers like this, like so. And what I recommend you do is you check out all these different branches of thumb pick styles, and when you approach a song like I'm doing now, which is much more challenging than the last one I learned, when you're approaching these songs, you have to play it the way that you think you can imbue your own style to it. You study these different styles and then you say, how do I think the song should sound? What approach do I think? By drawing from these different inspirations, what sort of approach do I think is the best way to play it? Because that's the way you're going to sound the best. Like with the new song, I know I'm playing in the key of E, I know I'm using the thumb pick, but what sort of personality do I want to imbue into it? I'm looking at these different these different inspirations. Okay, like I mentioned, Chet Atkins is one, two other main ones in my mind. How do I want to take those styles and approach it to the song? So you might feel more comfortable anchoring down a thumb. You might feel more comfortable just simply tucking in or anchoring down the fingers rather, say your ring and pinky. And then you've got two fingers freed up. And or you may feel more comfortable tucking in these fingers, every finger except your thumb, so that they're out of the way. So if I have the E chord down, say we're going 6, 4, because with Chet Atkins, it was all about that muting, really purposeful muting, and then playing the melodies on top of that. Anything you do on top of the bass, the lower strings on your guitar, that comes secondary. I can't stress that enough. Now this thumb pick here, I've got another one there. This is from my local store. And I might get online and look up and see precisely if I can order more of these, because you have to get one that fits. Essentially what a thumb pick is a piece of plastic with a hole in it. It's a rounded piece of plastic, almost like a D shape. And this is what these styles were built upon, this piece of plastic here. All right, it's a piece of plastic that you slip over your thumb, but you need one that fits. So this happens to be a size medium. I've got a large one here that I got at the same time from the same store, just in case. And it's way too big, it's way too floppy, this black one. It's the same brand. And I had one before this that I picked up on a whim, and it was simply way too tight. It was ridiculously tight, the Diodario brand. So in my journey so far, what I've found the best is, by far, so far, is this National size medium white thumb pick. I'll try to show you here. And when I went to my local store to go pick up those ukuleles in person, not the Martin, that was a special order, but the two first ukuleles I got were from my local store. I went to pick them up. I went to try this on, or I just got the black one I told him just to be safe, but I knew this one was the one that fit. So that's what the thumb pick is. It's just a piece of plastic that sounds a lot different than your fingers. Because it's fine, it's a good sound. I'm not muting right now. Even I put down an E chord. And you have a little more control this way, you might think. But it's not a clear, articulate sound. And that's what the thumb pick creates the option for you. And it also just changes the whole dynamic of the way you play. Because normally playing the finger style, something like this, there's sort of a flatness. See? There's a sort of flatness to the way my hand lays almost parallel to the strings. It's flat reasonably. But as soon as you add the thumb pick into the equation, now you have to adjust. Okay, now there's more distance between. And the thumb pick creates this. And you might be studying styles and you might see, for example, Chet Atkins, who I mentioned previously, going 6, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 5, 4, doom, 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 and the muting is super under control. Super under control. And a lot of these pioneering players, they kind of have their own sound to where not really any old individual can sound like these players. You can study them and you can distill what they do and try to, how can I put it, explain it in the simplest terms possible, and I often try to do that, explain things, distill things down. But ultimately, these players are, you're never going to play it quite like them, but you can spend a lot of time studying them. This new song I'm checking out, I'm not going to give away the details, but it's in the key of E. It's a spiritual song, and a lot of thumb pick players have an affinity towards this song, and I instantly heard it. I instantly wanted to learn it. I didn't care how challenging it would be. Like I've said previously, a new song has to grab me. It doesn't necessarily have to be a song I heard before previously. Sometimes it is, but this was one I wasn't familiar with, but as soon as I heard it, I said, I have to learn this tune. I had to learn it, so that's what I'm doing now in my spare time. I haven't had much time. All I've been doing is working. And I've got this place I have to be on Thursday that's not work, so I literally have one day off this week, which is tomorrow. And that's why I'm doing this now. So we'll see what next week brings, but what I've been doing is each day, no matter how tired I am, is I'll sit down with the song and see if I can get just a little bit farther with it, have just a little breakthrough with it. And the way I approach this song is I've got a lesson I'm checking out and slowing down, but also now I don't often sign up for people's newsletters and things, email news lists, such as, I don't know, any of these YouTubers, Marty Shorts or Sean Daniel or any of these guys, because I'm not a fan of these guys. So I don't need them bombarding me with their stuff, even if I'm sure it's fine. I don't even know what the real motivation of that is. Probably so that down the line you'll probably purchase something. But the channel that I'm following for this new song, I did want the tabs, and I went into the description of the video, and they said, put in your email and your full name and get full access to the tabs, because the lesson itself was not like my lessons, was not like some other lessons where it's note for note for note what they played. They don't tell you what they played. Luckily, at the end, there's a version where you can see both hands on the screen at the same time, and you can just kind of dissect what's happening. But having the tabs also to play at your own pace, I found helpful. So then I filled out, for once I did put my email, and it's been a long time since I've done that. And I did get instant access to the tabs. And I took screenshots of the tabs, so I would have them saved, and I began assessing it that way. And then I was going back and forth comparing the lesson to the tabs, which is from the same source. And it's a song where there's all these different tutorials online. They're all a little bit different. So I had to pick the one that I wanted to learn to play like so-and-so. All right. And I was studying it. So even when I can't record, which used to be my main way of practicing, I've got this new song that I'm working out, and even if I can just get in a little bit of time per day working out, I'll feel all right. What I was going to say next. Well, that's what I've been doing. So let's see, putting in a little time per day. Oh, maybe about the awful headache. Except yesterday I didn't play because for two days I've always got migraines, but ever since a kid I've gotten them. Like once in a while I'll get a bad one, and it's just a lot of things culminating. So yesterday I didn't play, and I haven't been using this guitar. I've been using the the Martin 018, which is a lot smaller than this in every way, really. I wanted to get out this one today. I haven't played it in a while, and I thought it would look cool on the thumbnail. So this has been a video about thumb pick playing. So just remember that the rhythm that the thumb keeps on the lower strings on your instrument, that is the primary focus when you're starting out. The melody playing and everything on top of it, that's fine. We're going to work that out. But first, the first priority from you is going to have to be the rhythm that the thumb keeps with the right hand on the lower strings on your acoustic guitar, right? Then keeping in mind the sound that the thumb pick produces, that it's not this sort of muffled sound of simply your fingers. Now this guitar, as I find with a lot of Martins, is already kind of stiff sounding. If I had the J50, I would get a big sound even with the fingers, but the thumb pick, nevertheless, it adds that well-defined articulation to the notes. All right, and it changes the whole way you position your hand. You don't have to worry too much about how you position it. Just know that this part of your palm here is resting on the bridge, and it's the thumb pick that creates that distance that you didn't have before. I've done a lot of fingerstyle playing since I first started, and when you do that, you're reasonably flat to the strings. Okay, so this is a whole different approach, really. And then you begin studying the different ventures of these different pickers. You might say, I want to sound like this player, I want to sound like this player, I want to sound like this. And you pick which one you're going towards the most. For me right now, okay, I'm going to take the Chet Atkins approach with this song. Because ultimately you play things the way you believe you should play them, the way you think they should sound. And that's when you start making the best music you can. Because you're interpreting it your own way. But you have to be drawing from the right resources. So I hope you guys like this video. We can talk about this a little more soon. Like I said, this week is not going to be a week full of free time, and that's why I've been posting clips from the past. So thanks for your patience. See you soon.